Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 180. Hi, I'm Jill. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm Chris. Jill and I are your hosts for this podcast and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
If you're wondering why we decided to name our community Becoming Ellie, it's because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match. Chris and I thought, hey, we want to be like Ellie, fit and strong as we grow older.
Yes, and you can find out more about the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I. And you can also sign up for our newsletter while you're there.
Today we're talking to Yvonne Marchese about Aging Playfully. Let's go to the podcast.
Yvonne Marchese is the host of Late Bloomer Living podcast and the Age Agitators Club for Women, co-host of the Salty Sisters live stream, and a roving reporter for Good Morning Entrepreneurs.
She's also an author, speaker, and professional photographer on a mission to explore what it means to live playfully at any age. Her book, In Full Bloom, A Guide to Aging Playfully, reached number 9 on Amazon's midlife bestseller list.
Yvonne is a roller skating, paddleboarding age agitator who believes that midlife is filled with possibility, that it's never too late to pursue a dream. Yvonne, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love what you guys are doing.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, we're happy to have you. Maybe we could start with you telling us about your journey and what inspired you to launch Late Bloomer Living.
Late Bloomer Living was born out of me establishing a morning routine because I needed to get my shizzle together. Let's just say I was in my late 40s feeling stuck, feeling like I was meant for something more. I didn't know what. There was just a lot of maybe low-grade depression going on. I don't know, low energy. I was at my heaviest. I've never been really heavy, but I was at my heaviest. Never lost the baby weight. I had kids later in life. Just people would ask. I had what I lovingly refer to as the pooch. My belly was, people would say, "Oh, when are you due?"
Oh, no.
I'd be like, "Oh, good
That's
grief."
a bummer.
Yeah,
I was due 5 years ago.
Exactly. Anyway, it was just like my whole 40s were pretty rough as far as like figuring out who I was and what was next. And I hit a wall at about the age of 48, I guess, and I discovered long story short, I discovered Mel Robbins' book, The 5-Second Rule. And I could relate to a couple of things very, very strongly at that point, which was the snooze button. I was hitting my snooze button every morning multiple times because I didn't want to get up and face the day. I was having a drink at night with my husband most nights, and then staying up late to edit photos, which led into the not wanting to get up. It was the whole thing. So I was like, okay, putting the brakes on here. I am going to get up every morning. I'm going to do a 30-day experiment. Let's see if it works. I'm going to get up an hour before the rest of the family, my kids, my husband, and meditate every day and move my body every day. And that was the commitment. I was like, I can do anything for 30 days. Let's see how this goes. And I started feeling so much better within a week or two. And so much so that one of my kids, I went to wake him up one morning. He had no idea what I was doing. And he said, "You seem happier, Mom."
Wow.
And it was everything I needed to know that I was on the right path. So I kept going. And I started to feel this surge of energy and hope. And I was like, oh, interesting. if I feel better than I felt for years. If I keep feeling better and if I stay healthy, who knows? I might live to 80 something, 90 something. I've got 20, 30, 40 years ahead of me. What am I going to do with that? That was when the idea for the podcast popped into my head because I thought other people have got to be feeling this way. Other people have got to be feeling like they're stuck, like it's all downhill. Like, why don't I have it figured out? Why does everybody else seem to have it going on and I don't? And the podcast idea niggled around in my brain for 2 years with me going, no, maybe not now. I'm trying to grow my photography business. The kids are keeping me, but no, I don't know how to do it. I don't have the money to pay somebody to do it. No. And then finally, December of 2019, I was sick of myself. And I put a post on Facebook and said, I'm drawing a line in the sand. This is an idea that I've been having and putting off, and I'm going to do it. And I will say that part of that turnaround was that I realized that the main thing holding me back was imposter syndrome. It wasn't the time and the money necessarily, although those were real concerns. It was really who would care what I have to say? What does it matter?
So would you say the line in the sand where, it was before and after kind of thing was the start of your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. It was when I said, I'm going to do a podcast. I put it out on social media to keep myself accountable, and everybody
so that people would say, when's the podcast coming out?
Yes. and immediately I got this swell of response from friends. Congratulations. And I'm like, oh, I haven't even done anything yet. I better get on it. And the other thing that freed me up to feel like I could do it was that I realized at some point that I didn't need to be an expert, that I just needed to bring people along the journey with me and reach them through my story and other people's stories and see if they could connect to that and find something for themselves that they could take and run with.
I think Chris and I struggled with feeling that way when we first started. Like, what do we know?
But yeah, who am I to tell people that I'm fit and strong over 50? Well, I'm definitely over 50.
With the goal of being fit and strong, right?
Well, that's partly why we called it Becoming Ellie, because we're becoming into the next stage of aging all along,
So your message is all about embracing aging playfully. Can you share what that means? What does aging playfully mean to you?
I'll tell you, it's evolved since I started the podcast. So the podcast I've been doing for close to 5 years. I'm coming up on my 5-year anniversary. And I think when I started, I was very focused on reinvention, which I still am. But I think my focus was on self-improvement, reinvention and improving myself and other people being able to improve themselves. And I have moved away from that idea of self-improvement and into the idea of embracing who we are and using that thing inside of us that's been there the whole time that maybe we've stuffed down because of all the things that we've had to do to adult in our lives, to do the things that make us look like productive, respectable citizens in the world. And this play idea started coming up for me more and more and more. And I think that it can be a key or a gateway to getting in touch with that part of yourself, to your creativity, to your resilience. And so more and more I was seeing that I'm a hard worker. I'm a person who puts goals out there and then works really hard to get to them. And I was finding that even though I'm doing photography, which I love, I was doing the podcast, which I love, and I was still feeling the grind. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm my own worst boss. I'm terrible, with the whip, when you get on it, Yvonne, get to work. I realized that I needed to make more time in my life for play, but also with the overall goal of being more playful in my attitude, in my mindset towards the work that I'm doing. so that when I'm doing a podcast episode, there's a sense of exploration about it. There's a sense of what if. Same thing with my photography business. There's tasks I have to do that are, writing contracts and things like that. But once I get behind that camera, man, it is all bets are off. It's so much fun. I love working with people and making a connection with people. Same thing with the podcast. The minute I hit record, it's like, let's go. This is awesome. So how do I bring more of that playfulness into all the parts of my life? And I just think that our cortisol, our stress, I don't know about you guys. The stress is crazy.
There is a lot of stress in life.
And it's bad for our health. The cortisol, I talked about my pooch at the beginning. That's like, they call it what? The menopause belly, all that stuff. It's cortisol is one of the things that contributes to that. So if you can start addressing like your need for play and release, then and if your exercise, what if your exercise can be playful? How about that? I started roller skating again 2 years ago because I missed that aspect of being my 10-year-old self so much. And that was another thing that kept coming up in my brain.
Where do you roller skate? Do you go to a rink or?
No, we don't have one around here.
Do you do outside, like, down the street?
That's what I did when I was a kid, down the street. These days, I go to the beach. I started off, they had just repaved the parking lots at the beach. I would go early in the morning before it got busy, and in the summertime, and I would roller skate around the fresh pavement where it was nice and smooth. I have now moved over to the skate park, which took me a long time to build up to. And if I can go in the mornings, it's just me. And if I go in the afternoons, I'm surrounded by skateboarders and kids and craziness. And I can manage that now. I couldn't in the beginning. I avoided the skate park in the beginning. But that's
you have to build up to something like that, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So what mindset shifts helped you to personally move from being stuck and maybe the fear of aging to a more joyful and curious approach? Like, how did you shift your mind?
Meditation has been a huge tool for that. And moving my body is key. I don't know that it's necessarily true for everybody, but for me in particular, I find that if I move my body every day, stretch, weights, dance, walk, anything, it is very helpful for my mindset. I used to go for walks on the beach and call it beach therapy. It's just getting outside, changing my perspective. It allows me to be more curious. And I think curiosity really is like a silver bullet for stress, for questioning the things that we believe and the stories that we're telling ourselves and the limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves. The minute you can get curious about something, it opens up doors to other possibilities.
The whole what if.
Yeah.
Okay, so many women over 50, maybe like lots of women over 50, feel invisible or they're no longer relevant. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling stuck in that mindset? I mean, what would you say to someone who says, I'm too old to start something new?
I'd say, again, get curious. Maybe get yourself a little quiet time, do a little journaling or meditation or walking or anything that can get you into a space of curiosity. Sometimes when I'm walking, I'll have my voice recorder handy on my phone or my notes app open, and I'll talk into it. And I'll say things in there that are coming up for me. When you feel stuck, there's always going to be a story attached to that stuckness. And it's one of the reasons why I say that our stories are powerful, and they can work for you, they can work against you. In my 40s, I was solidly in the phase of telling myself a lot of disempowering stories about myself that it was too late, that I was a failure, that, I mean, name it. Name it. In my 40s, there was a lot of negative thought loops in my head. I felt so stuck. It was crazy. But giving myself time in the mornings to have time for myself before I had to put out the fires of the needs of my family and my business and the things like that, just time for me. You know, you can say that's selfish, but I think we need to rebrand selfishness and claim it for the power that's there. You got to get a little selfish. That's the key to getting unstuck. Get curious and get a little selfish, because where you go from there is this overflow of energy. And for me, it turned into a desire to find a way to be of service to others. And once I started finding this way through the podcast to be of service to other people, it blew up my life. It opened up all kinds of doors. And the more you do things, the easier things get.
That's so true.
If you can let yourself be a beginner, be a beginner. We all want to look like we got it figured out. We want to look like we have all our ducks in a row. We know how to do things. I'm 50. I'm 56. I know how to do this. I just think we all get so concerned with how we look and how other people are perceiving us that we get afraid of making a fool of ourselves by stepping into being a beginner. But that's where the juice is. You're going to find out things about yourself that are going to stun and amaze you. And you're going to find out that you're way more powerful than you ever thought you were.
So the interesting thing, I just thought of this while you were talking, is when we've talked to people who deal with things like dementia, one of the big things that they say to do is find something new to learn. Doing things repetitively, even if they're using your brain, doesn't cause your brain to expand or become healthier or whatever. But learning something, becoming a beginner at something is actually very healthy for you.
Absolutely. It establishes new neural connections in your brain. You're refiring and rewiring stuff. And we do have neuroplasticity. It's there. We just have to get intentional about making it happen. Like when I'm on my roller skates, I force myself to do the things that are uncomfortable for me. It's natural for me, if I'm going to turn right. I make myself go left as often as I go right. I have to flip it. I make myself pick up a foot and get on one foot and deal with the balance issues that are now there. Oh, now I'm going to cross that foot over my other foot. Whoa!
Right.
And here's the thing, if you're doing it, that's where I feel like play comes in. Play helps us develop neural connections. So it may not be roller skating for anybody listening. It most likely isn't. But there's something there for you. And if you look back at what you enjoyed as a kid, there may be something you did that maybe you're not going to go do that again. But what was the essence of it? What was the essence of the thing that you enjoyed? And is there some new thing that you could step into and learn that is going to give you challenge and be fun?
I was just thinking of taking classes at my gym, and I tend to shy away from the dance classes because I don't know the moves. And they keep introducing new kinds of dances that I've never even heard of, but people are so enthusiastically doing it. And I find myself hesitating for that very reason, because I don't know the moves, and I'll feel silly and I'll look funny and, probably bump into someone or whatever. But what you're telling me is that's what I need to be doing, right?
Yeah, I feel you, sister. Oh my gosh. So I used to be an actress back in that was all I ever wanted to be from the time I was 6 until I had kids and realized I was done doing that. And one of the things that ended up happening is I would occasionally find myself in a musical theater audition and or dance class. I would make myself take dance class. I gotta learn how to dance. And I would go and be surrounded by people who'd been dancing for forever and always feel like Lucille Ball, in I Love
Right.
Lucy. Ridiculous, just so awkward. I have rhythm. I can dance. I can go out on the dance floor and, have a great time. But ask me to do choreography. Oh, I get so scared, which is why now I'm challenging myself to learn shuffle dance.
What is shuffle dance?
Shuffle dance is like if you've seen the videos of people dancing in the street, usually it's cute young girls and everything, but it is such a fun form of dance, and you can do once you learn the basic steps, you can start doing choreography, and you can freestyle it, and you can do all kinds of things once you're comfortable. But I'm not at all comfortable doing this, but I watch it and it looks like so much fun. So why am I holding myself back? I was holding myself back because I was telling myself the story that I wasn't a dancer, that I couldn't dance like that I couldn't learn dance moves. And so it's still something I'm struggling with, but I'm like, it is so much fun. I'm learning from YouTube videos. I had this woman on a podcast. Her name is Shannon Hunt, and she used to be terrified of dancing. She started doing shuffle dance, and now she's teaching it online on YouTube, and she's an awesome teacher. And I have learned so much from her. And then this past Sunday, I went to my first roller dance class.
Roller dance. Is that like roller skating, dancing?
Yes. Well, that's what I'm trying to learn on my roller skates now is how to do these dance moves.
Oh my gosh.
It is, and I felt like, remember the beginning of Bambi when Bambi's trying to stand up? That is
Right.
exactly how I felt in the class on Sunday. And he's doing the moves, but I'll tell you the benefit of being older is that he taught something and then he started to go forward and I was like, whoa, wait, I'm really slow. Can you do that again? Which I would not have done when I was younger.
No, you just would have struggled through.
Yes. Yes.
So, how do you approach fitness from a place of joy? Like, do you have some tips for our listeners, primarily women over 50, how to get away from the obligation or guilt for not doing enough fitness things? Do you have tips for us? Advice of how to change that to a place of joy?
Yeah, get out and play. Get out and play. Figure out what you enjoy and go start with it and start small. Baby steps, I cannot say enough that baby steps, even if you get out and if you do something for 10 minutes, isn't that better than nothing?
Right.
And build up. When I first started on the skates, let me just tell you, I was so wobbly. I didn't expect it. I thought I'd just get on the skates and skate like I did when I was 10. Yeah, that didn't happen. I got on the skates and again, the Bambi, think the Bambi image, right? I was so wobbly and I was so scared. I was so scared. I wear pads. I wear a helmet. Just to let you all know, I'm aware that I have 56-year-old bones and I don't want to break them. So it's a calculated risk. I know that I can fall and hurt myself, and it's enough fun that I'm okay with that.
So you have padding on and a helmet. So you're taking precautions. You're not.
I take precautions, but I also I fell that last May. I was going pretty fast. I was crossing over my feet, and I took a full-on slide on my front side of my body. Helmet. I used my helmet. My glasses got all scratched up. Luckily, my face didn't. Every pad that I was wearing got used. But you know what happened? I wrenched my shoulder. There's no padding for doing that. So it was just the weight of it wrenched me. And I had to do some PT. So I did. And I didn't get to go paddleboarding over the summer because I couldn't paddle a paddleboard, but I could still skate. So I was real careful for a while. And when I first got on my skates, I would do 10 minutes. I would do 15 minutes. It was like little bits. experiment with different things and try things that you're scared to do, but only if you want to. Like, there's certain things I'm never going to do. I don't want to go bungee jumping ever.
That's what just popped into my mind. I'm not too keen on heights to begin with.
No, they have that annual jump. There's a giant, very high bridge in West Virginia, the New River Bridge. And one weekend every year, all these people descend on the bridge and bungee jump off it. I mean, it's high.
Hard
It,
pass.
to me, is just, it's terrifying to even think about doing it.
I'm trying to lower my cortisol, not raise it. But I do love the idea of baby steps on things that are just a little scary, you know.
A little bit of scared is good. A little bit. Because without challenge, then you're not engaging. Play is great. And let me just define play, first of all. Play is a state of mind. There are people who go running, who run and it's playful for them. And then there's people who go running and they run because it's exercise. And they run, there's a lot of reasons people can run. Some people run for the competition. Some people run because they're in a running club and it's social. There's aspects of that. Like if you're a competitive, if competitiveness is playful for you, then that's playful. If the social aspect feels playful for you, then you're playing. So it's all about how it feels. Get in touch with how you feel and do more of what makes you feel good.
So if you're running because it's exercise, but every time you do it, it feels like drudgery, maybe find a different
activity
activity.
to do. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe try, go try pole dancing. Go try
pole dancing. Yeah.
Seriously. Like go try, go take a dance class. And if you don't like that dance class, that may not be the kind of dance you like. So don't just say, "Oh, that didn't work. I don't like that." No, well, what do you look at? What do you see other people doing that looks like fun that you tell yourself you can't do? Go try that.
How many times do you think you have to try something like, say, a dance class before you should really say, this is not my cup of tea?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I think when you go, if you've had more fun than trauma, then keep going.
Okay.
When I went this Sunday and he started to move into the next section, and I took charge for a second and said, "Hang on, can you slow down?" And I felt it was me and 3 other people in the class. And I was like, "I'm really sorry, guys." And they were like, "No, thank you."
Right.
So I was like, "Okay." And I found that even though I felt like Bambi on my skates, I was laughing. I felt invigorated afterwards. I felt like I had accomplished something. I was energized. If you leave with more of that than coming out and being like, "Oh, I feel depleted. I feel like a complete failure. That was awful." Then yeah, don't go back. Maybe and maybe that teacher wasn't great. Maybe you need a different teacher.
Yeah, that's an important point. Because first few times I tried yoga, the teacher was not right. And I didn't realize that. I thought I hated yoga.
And yoga can be a bajillion different things. There's a lot of different styles of yoga. Same thing with meditating. People try it once and think, "Oh, I can't meditate. That didn't work." Well, there's a lot of different ways to meditate.
So I was going to ask you about that. How do you recommend, if someone says, "Okay, this is a great idea. I want to get into meditation." Any advice?
I started with guided meditations and I still use guided meditations. I find it very difficult to just sit in the quiet with my thoughts.
Okay. Like an app or something?
I use Insight Timer these days. When I first started, there was a disc that my husband had, a CD. Let's go way back in time. So I used that one, and that was when I was very inconsistent with it. But there were 2 meditations out of 3 that were on that disc that I connected with. The first one, I didn't. So you have to find the right guided meditation too. There's some people whose style I connect with, and there's some people I don't. So try 5 minutes. Like Insight Timer has a lot of free content. I'll say that right now. So you can go in and you can explore. I love Tara Brach, I think is phenomenal. There's a guy named David J.I. is how you spell his last name. I have a couple of those bookmarked that I go back to. There's a really freaky deaky one by Ram Dass that it is a little bit longer, but I love it. It uses my imagination and pulls me into this whole zone that almost nothing else does. I often go back to the ones that we had from that CD because those are, I try to mix it up a little bit and start slow. Again, baby steps. Do 5 minutes. There's one that I found on Insight Timer. It was like a 5-minute morning gratitude. And it's wonderful. It's like a really quick body scan. And she's got you feeling grateful for your feet because you're walking around on your feet all day. And you're grateful then for what your hands are doing. We overlook this stuff, this miracle that is our body. We overlook it and we don't appreciate it. Literally a miracle that you're breathing and there's blood pumping through your system every day and you don't even think about it.
It's so easy to blame what isn't working the way you wanted it to or how it used to. Isn't that funny how that is? You're absolutely right. We take it for granted what is working. You don't even notice that part. Right? Gratitude. Yeah.
On your website, you host a club called the Age Agitators. What is that? Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I love it. I dubbed myself an age agitator some time back, and that club started off as the Midlife Uprising community because I hosted a summit a few years back that was called Midlife Uprising.
I like that.
And then my members were like, we want to be age agitators. I was like, all right, you're age agitators. So we changed the name. It's funny because when a lot of people will hear the age agitator and it sounds a little confrontational, it's way more fun than it sounds. So if you think about the old-fashioned washing machine and there was always the agitation setting on the washing machine, that was a part where it cut the little thing in the middle went the agitator, literally, it was called the agitator, would go chicka 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 and it would shake out all the dirt in your clothes and then that would get rinsed away. So the idea is that we're shaking off all the ideas about what aging is that have been floating around in all the conversations we've ever heard throughout our life and recognize them as stories. That's all they are. They're just stories. And so if you can stop and question whether or not that is true, whether it's absolutely true. I'm getting into a little Byron Katie here. Have you heard of Byron Katie? There's a great way to question your own beliefs, and it's a 4-step process that she's got. I think it's like if you're thinking a thought, you can ask yourself, and I may butcher this, by the way. I don't know if I'll remember all 4. Ask yourself, is it true? And then ask yourself, is it absolutely true? And then you kind of keep asking yourself the questions until it gives you the wiggle room. And again, this is getting curious, right? It's getting curious about the things you're telling yourself.
So it's sort of like the exercise of asking why. You're thinking something, so you say why, and you get that superficial answer. So then it's why. You just keep going down until you come to
going deeper, right?
The kernel of whatever it is you're dealing with.
Yeah, because your thoughts create feelings in your body. Your feelings cause you to take action. Your action causes a result. And so then you go back to thinking, aha, I was right.
We do self-validate ourselves.
Yeah. So, and the more you believe, the more you repeat. So what do they say? We have like 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. I think 80% of them are on repeat and 90% of them are negative.
Oh, boy.
I think those are the stats.
That's tough, isn't it?
Bleak, right?
I feel like so many of my thoughts are my to-do list going around and around. Okay, that one's done.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that could be part of it too. But what's driving your to-do list? What are you thinking about? Why is that even on your to-do list? Why is that thing really even need to get done? Right? So if you can get intentional about your thoughts and curious about your thoughts enough to be able to, we've just got well-worn ruts in our neural connections that are just like, well, this is the way I've always done it. This is the way I have plenty of evidence for thinking that when people get old, it's all downhill after 50. I've seen it. My friends are getting sick. This is happening. That's happening. You can find all the evidence in the world that you want for anything. But if you can stop yourself for 5 seconds and go, is that true? Why do I think that's true? Is it really true? And here's the real kicker. Does that thought help me? And if there's a possibility that it isn't true, then what? And that opens up the door for other thoughts to come in. You can change so much just by questioning your beliefs.
That's cool.
So that's what we do in the Age Agitators.
Yeah. That's going to have me thinking about it for the rest of the day. Well, I know one of your big messages, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. Can you share an example of someone, or maybe even yourself, that has done just that?
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Melissa Davey.
No.
Okay. You need to go check her out. She became a documentary filmmaker in her 60s. She had a big corporate career. She had a big job with a business, and she won a lottery ticket to go on an M. Night Shyamalan movie set and shadow him for the day because he was shooting in her neighborhood, in her neck of the woods. And she got to spend the day with him. And he said, so what do you do? And she told him, and he said, do you like it? And she said, well, I really want to do what you're doing. And he said, well, you better get on it.
Time's a wasted.
Time's a wasted. What are you waiting for? And she took it to heart. And she took about a year or more, prepped her company, the guys at her company, and said, I'm gonna be leaving. And she had a project idea. She produced a film about women over 60 called Beyond 60. It was all about women doing amazing things in their 60s. And now she's got a second film out, which is about Deirdre Wallenick, which she's the oldest woman ever to climb El Capitan. And she's done it twice, in her 60s and then again in her 70s. And she didn't even start climbing until her late 50s, I believe. And Deirdre's been on my website, on my podcast also. Both of them have. But both. Like, Deirdre never thought of herself as an athlete.
Wow. El Capitan's serious.
Yeah. Well, her son is Alex Honnold.
Oh, right. Okay.
Solo guy.
I do know who that is.
So she raised, and her daughter is also an ultra athlete. So she raised these two kids that were ultra athletes, but herself had never felt like she could do any of that, and started in her 50s with marathons, or just with running, and then built up to marathons, and then started climbing because she wanted to know what her kids were doing. So there's two examples for you.
That's great.
That made me think about Mary that we just interviewed, who took up running in her 50s and now runs marathons all over the world.
In her 70s.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love surrounding myself with those examples. And I'll say that if you want to get unstuck, that's another tip that I have, is to surround yourself with the examples of people like that. And don't look at them and think, well, good for them. I could never do that. Ask yourself, what is it about that I find inspiring? What could I do?
Right. And you don't have to do, like with the woman I just spoke about, you don't have to necessarily decide, I want to run marathons, but you might decide, well, let's just try running 5Ks, but
yeah. That's why if you can find something that's playful, here's the other thing about playfulness. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be good. I don't have to be a good skater. I don't have to be a good dancer. None of that stuff. I just have to go, like, for the time that I'm doing it, I will tell you this, because of the focus it takes, because it's fun, all my worries are temporarily, poof, gone. I can't think about what's happening in the world. I don't think about my to-do list. It all flies away because my focus is on something that is challenging and enjoyable and playful. And it's not because I'm trying to get good at it. It's because it's fun.
You get into that flow state.
What role does community, connection play in all of this?
Everything. Everything. That I often say that starting a podcast completely changed my life. It's not hyperbole. It has led me to meet people like you. Um, the second person who was ever a guest on my podcast was somebody I didn't know. I got brave and asked her to come be on my podcast, and she was very gracious and said yes. She's got her own podcast, and we have since become really good friends, and we collaborate and we go on each other's podcasts frequently. And I and now I'm in a business mastermind with women who are we're all in midlife and beyond, and they are all doing different things from me, but I just find myself to be surrounded by people who are living proof that you can do anything you set your mind to. That here's the key, is that the success of it comes from who you have to become in order to do the thing. It's not necessarily about how well the thing goes or what you accomplish with the thing. It's about you doing the thing and enjoying it and learning.
Sort of like it's the journey, not the destination. It's not the outcome.
It's a cliche for a
It is a
reason.
cliche
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah.
But I love the way you put that. I love the way you put that. Who you have to become in order to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like lifting weights. It's doing the reps. It's like every little thing that you do will lead you. Like I didn't start my morning routine because I thought it was going to make me do a podcast, right? There's so many things that I've started that I'm like, I started it because I started it. It was curiosity that led me there. And then it led me to something else, or it led me to another person. And then that person made me think, what if I tried that? Or, like community is huge. Surround yourself with people who make you want to do fun things.
So, what do you say to women who feel unsure about what they want next in life, but know that they do want something more? What can you tell them?
Get curious. Just keep asking why. You were talking about that, right? Keep asking yourself, because I've been there. I was there when I gave up doing theater and acting when I was 35. It was the first time in my life that I did not know what I wanted. And it took me 5 years to find photography. And it was a long, uncomfortable slog.
So you were an actress
Yeah.
and then at some point decided to become a photographer?
Yeah. I had I call it a Shazam moment after a layoff when I was 40. It was 2008. I had just gone back to work full time. And this is kind of at the end of the 5 years. So I had my first child when I was 35. I started going back to audition again when he was about 2. And then I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't have the energy that it requires to do this anymore. But then I was like, well, who am I? What am I if I'm not Yvonne trying to go do theater? What? 5 years. It was really uncomfortable. It was not fun. And so if you're in the middle of that, I just want to acknowledge, I know it's not fun. I know it isn't, but there's something better for you on the other side if you try as much as you can to lean into that discomfort and figure out what it is. Get quiet, go for your walks, move your body, meditate or journal. Find what works for you because there's no one size fits all thing. I think you've got to find what works for you and take a step, watch a YouTube video, take a class, try a little something, and see if it leads you to something else. And just repeat. I'm back into self-inquiry mode again. Like, I'm like, what's next? I don't know. You know? But I feel like that's why we're here. I don't think that's ever going to end. And why should it? As long as I'm alive, I guess I want to be thinking about, what do I want to be when I grow up?
We've talked about your physical activity and morning routines, but is there anything you did about food that changed, or that do you eat a certain way?
Yeah, I tried I tried doing a program that a friend sent me that was like Beachbody something or other. I did like protein shakes and things like that. I ended up getting sick after a couple of weeks. But I will say this, I did another thing then that it was a different protein shake and a different system. I did those and I created this rhythm to my eating that was very predictable, that took away the decision making. I think that's why it was successful. And I don't do it anymore. But it took me out of my habits and created a new habit. And from there, it opened me up into others. Does that make any sense?
You broke your old routine.
So
Yeah.
you set certain times that you ate regularly.
It was more about like I eat the same thing for breakfast just about every morning. I just don't there's a certain amount of decision fatigue that goes with just living, and having a business requires a lot of decision making. Being a mom, I'm making decisions all the time. It's frankly really exhausting. So if there's things that I can make easier, I do, and that tends to be food. The thing that I've embraced more recently, I would say, is a little bit like intermittent fasting light, we'll call it. I gave up in an effort to cut down on my sugar. I used to eat a bowl of cereal every night before bed. That was my comfort thing that I would do. But I heard about this intermittent fasting thing. It took me a long time to wrap my head around it. But I have like a fasting window I try to keep to of 12 hours. So I have an eating window of 12 hours and a fasting window of 12 hours. So I try to eat my dinner as early as I can and then try to put off breakfast until I'm somewhere in the zone. I'm really wishy-washy about it. You can tell, right?
Well, that's not an extreme fast, but it is a full night of not eating.
Yes. And I'll tell you, once I eat and then I stop and I stop everything, the big benefit of that is my sleep is better. My sleep is so much better eating earlier. I never would have believed that. I used to hear, what is it? Sophia Loren used to say that she would never eat after 6. And I remember being in my 20s and thinking, that's crazy. And here I am. I'm going to be like the woman at the Blue Plate special everywhere, eating dinner at 4:00 and calling it a day. But it works. It works for just me feeling better, and I just don't even worry. I'm fortunate. My metabolism is good enough that I don't have to worry about a lot of weight gain. So this is just what works for me. I don't know what anybody else should do, but that I've monkeyed around with a few things. I try to cut down on my sugar, and I try to stop eating earlier in the day. And I try to eat as much protein as I can. I know I'm not eating enough protein based on what they say you're supposed to have at this age, but I keep trying.
Well,
And,
but what I'm hearing from you is, if you were going to give advice, is just like what you said with activity, find something you like and see how it goes.
yeah. I'm working on the protein, really trying to make myself add more protein and veg into my into my routine. But it's a challenge. It is a challenge. And same thing with like, I'm trying to get into more lifting, doing more weight bearing exercises because the roller skating and the shuffle dance requires a lot of core strength. That's pretty cool, and it inspires me. Like, I'll do push-ups and things and squats and all kinds of stuff so that my roller skating will be better.
Yes. So there's a motivation to do it even if you don't particularly enjoy doing squats.
Yeah, that cross training.
I do not enjoy doing squats, but I do them.
Yeah.
You like the results,
squats
though. Right.
better than push-ups. But also, my shoulders are healthier, and I tend to get I tend towards the frozen shoulder bursitis, all the things. I've struggled with my shoulders for years. And if I can keep those shoulders moving and keep doing those push-ups, I notice the difference, and if I keep working on the core, my back doesn't go out. There's things that I do because I have seen the evidence of them working, and, yeah.
So, what is lighting you up right now? I mean, is there something new, a project on the horizon or an adventure or something out there in the future that's getting you excited?
Yeah, what's getting me excited? Well, skating and really, I'm just, like, digging in on this play thing. So I've started offering a play shop, that I've run a few times, I should say now. I'm getting ready to put one together that's an evergreen version people can access on their own time online, but it's really fun in person with people. I think more of us need to be playing, and we need to not look at it as frivolous. I think it's essential to our well-being to play more. So that is exciting to me right now.
If our listeners want to follow you online or listen to your podcast, join the Age Agitators, where should they go?
latebloomerliving.com. Everything is there. And I'm on Instagram doing silly videos, and that's Late Bloomer Living as well.
Great. Well, we'll make sure we tag those in our show notes and get those out there so folks can find you.
Thank you so much. This has been a great
Well,
conversation.
thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you.
It's been great. We'll talk again soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I really like the idea of playfulness.
Yeah, I do too. I was thinking about what you said about doing what you liked to do when you were young, and I couldn't think of anything other than playing kickball and hide and seek. I
Freeze
was
tag.
trying to think about what else I'd like to do, and then I remembered how much I loved riding my bike. And, I grew up where it was very hilly. I lived on top of a pretty good hill, and we would ride our bikes down the hill. We could go, I don't know, it was at least a mile down to the store without having to pedal at all, where we
Oh my
would go buy
gosh.
candy. It was so much fun. It was just a fantastic experience. But then, of course, we had to ride back up the hill.
The way
So
home was a little more tough, right?
it was a little more tough, but it was a good, it was a good memory. And so maybe I should ride my bike a bit more and maybe look for some hills. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of bike riding, especially a few years ago with my bike riding group. And I found that I could get into the flow state pretty good. We're so lucky here in Ohio because there's so many hike and bike trails that you can travel, for miles and miles. I mean, hundreds of miles practically on these trails. And they're really across the country at this point. But I've really enjoyed riding my bike a lot. A lot.
Yes. As sort of an aside, I watched a video the other day of I've seen more than one about people who ride all the way across the state, across Ohio.
Yep.
And then they go out of Ohio up into New York or whatever, but all
Yes.
on almost exclusively on trails.
Yeah. Yeah. They're working to get things connected. And I don't know, it is so freeing. It's sort of like when you were a kid and that was your first bit of freedom where you could really get on your bike and go for miles.
Yes, exactly.
And I also liked Yvonne's discussion about meditation, and I've used Insight Timer as well. I'm going to put a link to it in our podcast notes because there are a lot of free sessions that you can use for the guided meditations. And if you're like me, sitting there with your eyes closed, just breathing in and out, it doesn't make me relax. Sometimes it makes me more tense because I start thinking about, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. So the guided meditations kind of helps me get off that, they call it monkey mind, where you're just jumping from one thing to another, the to-do list,
I tend to think a lot of things like, what am I having for lunch?
Right.
What do I
Don't
need to
forget
buy at the grocery store?
Yeah, pick up at the grocery store. Isn't that funny? We must think alike.
Yeah, it's like when you do yoga, sometimes we're in that final, Savasana.
Shavasana, yeah.
And I'll be lying there
Your
thinking,
mind wanders,
what
right?
do I have to, well, I'm going to stop at the grocery store on my way home.
But they've done so many studies that if you can actually meditate, the gray matter in your head, in your brain actually grows. And that's a really good thing as we get older to have more activity going on up there,
I liked her recommendation on that too, which was just basically start slowly, just like everything else, start baby steps.
Baby steps.
So do a 5-minute meditation. All of the neuroscience people and longevity people and mental health people and just regular doctors say meditation is really good for you.
Yeah. Oh, it really is.
And what was the app you said you used?
Insight Timer. I use something called Insight Timer. There's another one I use too for helping with my breathing. And I don't know, breathing to me, especially when I first started doing this, I thought, oh yeah, that's kind of lame. But I've noticed a big change. There's something called Compassion. That's another app that I have. And I don't use any of the paid programs, but they have a 2-minute breathing thing that you can use on your phone where you cover over the light and it can actually tell when your body switches to the parasympathetic nervous system. And it gives you it teaches you how to, it's almost like biofeedback. It teaches you how to relax and get into the parasympathetic rest and digest portion of your heartbeats and your breathing. I don't know. I need something. I'm sort of, I hate to say it, but I think I'm a type A kind of person. I need some feedback on this. I can't just sit there and do it, But
If they would
anyway.
make it into a competition.
Well, yeah. I mean, in fact, at one point on this app, it says it's not a race, it's not a competition, but I do feel a little bit like that. But, there's different apps. I think there's something called Calm. There's another one called Breathe and Headspace. Have you ever heard of that one or tried
I have
that?
heard of it, but I don't think I've ever used it. Even the Fitbit app has some meditation things in it.
Sometimes they call it mindfulness.
I just thought the whole idea of being playful as you
Yes.
age and finding things that you like. I mean, I like the fact that she was roller skating.
Yeah. Yeah. And careful, she accepts the risk and she's planned for it with all those pads and helmet.
Yeah. Do people wear pads when they're mountain biking?
I don't know. I don't mountain bike because I'm not ready to accept that risk. I'm just not quick enough on the bike. I do like watching the videos on YouTube of people that are really good mountain bikers, but it's beyond what my challenge level is. I'm trying, like I said, I'm trying to lower my cortisol and adrenal gland, adrenal fatigue or whatever. I really am trying to develop that. Just chill, because I tend to pounce. You know what I mean?
Do you meditate?
Try. I do. I try each morning to do some meditation, and I've been able to embrace sort of the walking meditation.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
You've probably heard of it. I know we've had people talk about it. There was someone on our podcast years ago named Victoria Shaw, and she was the first one who ever talked to me about walking meditation. I'll have to find that episode, but she has a real good way about her of relaxing and using things like that you do all the time. Like you cross a threshold in the house and you do a quick meditation. I mean, really quick, you mindfulness when you're washing dishes with the water running, that's a whole nother kind of meditating that I can get behind because I'm also washing the dishes. For those of us that are not professional meditators.
Well, if you're listening, Let us know if you have any thoughts on our talk with Yvonne. What do you enjoy doing? Do you meditate? Do you roller skate? Or what do you do for fun? We'd love to hear from you, and feel free to share with us.
Yeah, if you have something fun and playful, please, let us know what it is so we can try it too. You can leave us a message on becomingellie.com, and you can also find us as Becoming Ellie on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Also, please consider joining our private Becoming Ellie Facebook group.
Yes, and if you enjoy our podcast, you're sure to enjoy Wellness Wednesdays, a free monthly online program focused on healthy aging, hosted by Sally Duplantier. You might remember Sally from podcast episode 175.
Oh, yeah, that was a very interesting episode, so check that out if you haven't already listened to it. But anyway, back to Sally. Guest speakers on Wellness Wednesdays include healthcare professionals, researchers, thought leaders, and authors on topics related to lifestyle choices, mental well-being, pain management, and reframing aging.
And the programs are an hour in length and include about 15 minutes of live question and answer. They're free and recorded. Visit Sally's website at myzinglife.com for more information.
It was good talking with you today, Chris. I am looking forward to the next episode of Fit Strong Women Over 50.
I am too. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.